High Confidence, Films and Human Rights in Crisis.
Human Rights Film Festival Berlin podcast on current affairs and culture. Presented by Anna Ramskog-Lavitt.
Welcome to this new episode of High Confidence Films and Human Rights in Crisis. Today we take a close look at the situation in Congo. We did have some connection issues, but at the end it worked out. We first speak to Horeb Bulambo, an outstanding journalist and filmmaker who is currently in Eastern Congo, an area that for over 2 decades is beset by violence from various armed groups. We were lucky enough to be able to welcome him at our last film festival in Berlin and grateful that he takes time to talk with us today. In the second part of this podcast, we will talk to my colleague from Action Against Hunger in Congo, Simone Ramones. She is the field coordinator for the emergency response in Congo and will give us insights from the perspective of an international humanitarian organization. Hi, Horeb. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you in these very strange times?
Yeah, I'm doing well, but like everybody, I can say it's just like nothing is moving. So, but I'm doing well.
So, you're based in Congo?
Yes, I'm based in Congo. At the moment, I'm in the eastern part of Congo, in Goma, not far from the Ebola, where we have both, in the region where we have both Ebola and coronaviruses.
I read in the Washington Post just when the World Health Organization was planning on announcing they have defeated Ebola, another case popped up, and at the same time the first corona case surfaced, and the lockdown was installed. How are people coping?
Just at the same time when we are trying to celebrate Ebola, on the other hand, on the other side, we could see corona coming in, corona arriving. And when corona also is arriving, we have again the resurrection of Ebola. This is how people are seeing them. If I have to give a picture, like a visual picture, the one enemy you think that you are killing is dying, is down, not breathing. When you see another one coming, say that let me fight this one. The other one also is coming up again, is resurrecting. This is the general impression that people have here in Congo.
Here in Europe, we do have strange rumors around corona and lots of misinformation. People, for example, tear down G5 film masts because they think they're responsible for the virus. How is the situation in Congo around fake news and rumors?
In Congo, this is big. This is the biggest news more than the news itself. The rumors and the disinformation, misinformation. We have fake news. People reporting, giving general fake information about what is corona, how to heal it, and so on, what is the best way to heal it. We have another one, which is like very common in Congo and popular, mostly with educated people. They are spreading rumors. We have some of them look like the international rumors, but we have also some other rumors proper to Congo, like saying what? No, there are people, Bill Gates, multinationals, other people who are trying to decrease the population, population of poor people in the world, mainly in Africa. And on the other side, like proper for Congo, because Congo has also, why these rumors are so common in Congo is from the polio vaccine, the wrong one, which was done in the colonial time in Congo during the Belgian colony. This is a true story. And people are taking that one to spray serious rumors, saying that they did that to us again. That was during the colonial time. We are not educated. They are now trying to do it today. And people are already prepared. They have already set up a huge shield, like a missile shield, against the vaccine campaign. I think this is the rumors that are here. People don't believe in. They're saying why they're dying on the other side and they want to come to vaccinate us here. Here we don't have many deaths. Here we don't have many cases. And it came also from the French doctors who reported on the French media and the people who watched them here. Here we speak French. And now it's like a big conclusion that No, these guys, they want to kill us. They want to kill us. They want to do experiment of their vaccines on us, like they did in 1959, and they never apologize. This is what the rumors that are here. There are many people who don't believe in it because they think that is just a plot, an international plot, and others also they think that this it can be true, but it's not for Africa. It's just for cold countries. These are the rumors that are here.
Coming to another question, Congo does have a lockdown as well at the moment. How are people handling it and how is it affecting their livelihood?
Now, for coronaviruses, when the president said that, he tried to raise up awareness and show people that it was serious. But on the other side, on the ground, in the same team, leadership of the same president, who for me is a good president, this is a personal opinion, is an honest man, he is working with at the same time we have hundreds of people who work under him who are corrupt. Yeah, when you tell somebody, go and close that shop, the same person, he'll go there, they give him something small, a small money, because even the person, the police that should implement the law, they are also poor. They are corrupt. It's difficult for them to do things. That now the decision is about the population. Some people, they locked up themselves because they believe in that corona exists. It's not strongly because of the president, because the president, what seems like in many places, people are not observing it, what they're saying. And also many people are giving an excuse. We have to eat, and the government of Congo doesn't have all these means to provide like other governments in the Western world, where they can do a public food distribution. Here we are not able to do it, and also where everybody, many people, the per capita, the money somebody received per day in Congo is very low, very low. Among the poorest, Congo is among the poor in terms of per capita, is among the poorest country in Africa, not in the world yet, in Africa. Even if the country is potentially rich, but people are extremely poor.
Especially in difficult times, in my personal opinion, independent journalism is very important. Does the lockdown and the current situation affect your work and the work of other independent journalists?
Really, for journalists, this is like also another financial disaster because there's no news out of Corona, and you can't go to report and so on, except maybe those like the national TV and radio or UN radio. And really, for journalists, the situation of a journalist like me and so on, it's really, is in general, is starvation. And also, we have a lot of restriction. The same law from the president is also stopping journalists to move and trying to collect information in public places. There's no public an accreditation, open accreditation. There are only special accreditation related to people who want to go to do so because they are telling everybody stay in your house. And journalists like freelance journalists like me, we are people who depend. We are like really we are people who depend on a daily basis or by deals or by short-time contracts. And when such things happen and you don't know when it will open again, and it becomes like really very difficult. You now it's for every single journalist to have your personal relation at low level because it's very difficult. We are not operating. There's nowhere you can go to try to buy information and where you can sell the information, even at the international level. And the situation of journalists is really very, very, very difficult in Congo.
On topics besides of Corona, which one would you like to have reported internationally on Congo?
Yeah, on Congo, out of Corona, maybe let me say, I could say Ebola, but I know Ebola is like a cousin brother and cousin sister, like Ebola, like Corona. Out of them, I think there are many human rights violations that are still going on, and now silently, nobody's caring. Many women and children in the neighborhood, because I'm a man of the forest, I'm a man of the jungle. I've been receiving these last days calls from women, from chief of tribes, from civil society leaders, the way we used to receive them. So they told me now there is a recrudescence, there is an increasing number of human violation again from rebels, from just civilian in remote areas which are out of towns. Yeah, and I think more generally it's about sexual violence, and also it's about, I would say, abuse of human rights, like people being enslaved by rebels to carry things, to feed them, and so on, and women being taken by force. When the government is distracted and busy doing other things, not only about corona, is when those things happen. And even the UN also is very focused, is very intimidated by corona, and they have limited also their movements toward many lost areas where the government was not even arriving. The United Nations used to go there. Like this is the case because of they can only access there. They are the people who have many helicopters. Now they have restricted their movements to such places, and they are now going only to strategic place, to big towns, and this is scaring the population. And rebels are now raining again, and bandits are raining again. Even some places also, the national army.
So they are taking this crisis situation and making it more horrible for the people in remote locations. So what should be done in that sense, if I understand you right, is first of all also report about that incidences so that organizations like the UN take the responsibility to try to step in those locations?
Yeah, I think is everybody is doing what we call in French sauve qui peut, who will come to help. Everybody is trying because Corona is terrorizing everybody, even all the stakeholders, or even all the aid workers. Many of them have sent they have limited the staff. They are only working with essential staff. They are avoiding risk also. And at the same time, the town is locked. The town of Goma is locked. Nobody is supposed to go out of Goma and to come out from Goma. Like this is like the capital of the Eastern Congo in many towns. Now it means that the people who are in the forest, they can't be rescued on time. And the guys who are in lost areas, those human rights abusers, they know this is a party celebration. They think that they are reigning again. I think what should be done should be a strong advocacy to the United Nations, and using, for example, people, key contacts of media like us who are here, who are liaise with normal people, small people through phones, yeah, also, and tell them there are people who are dying somewhere. There are people who are really crying for help somewhere. And all the work that have been built, have been the foundation of peace, security, and so on. It can be all after this corona. We may have again like the restoration of insecurity in all this in many areas, and we may go back to the initial situation in some areas, remote areas. We'll need again many deployment because everybody is now fearing everybody. In short, I would like to say what I think which can be very good to be done could be a support to the DRC medical to respond against Corona and Ebola, and at the same time to send strong messages to the United Nations and aid workers to increase their aid, to deploy their forces, to continue responding, to take this Corona time as a serious case, a serious situation, not only about Corona, about all other problems that can grow up again, can come back again. I think the situation is about advocating and supporting the Congo government, and advocating in supporting also for donors, support officers to help international NGOs to respond not only about Corona, also to respond for many other things for the forgotten people. Forgotten people are many. Now, Corona is just dealing, people in town, they're educated, they have centered the response to themselves. This is the problem. in towns, in big towns, it's as if it's where Corona, they have a deal to fight Corona. But when you go to remote areas, they have all the former problems, and also Corona is coming slowly toward them.
That is a very good message to send out in the world. Thank you so much, Horeb. It was very interesting to get your perspective because it opens up the whole picture and takes the focus just from Corona to all the other problems that stay besides it. And I think that's very important for all of us to keep in mind also that we don't have to lose the bigger picture on everything. And I hope, as you were in Berlin last year, that at some point in the future you can visit us again in Berlin and teach us more about this very interesting and fascinating country, hopefully with many good news. Staying optimistic.
Yeah, I'll really appreciate it. And thank you for the good work you guys are doing. You at least think about the world in a global picture. You remember that there are many people everywhere who must be really affected. That just by opening this communication with the outside world, like here in Congo and everywhere, it means that you have the world in a global picture. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Horeb, and speak to you soon. Hi, Simone. Thank you so much for joining us from Congo today. You are for Action Against Hunger as field coordinator for the emergency response team in Congo responsible. Can you shortly describe what that means?
This emergency response team is made out of national and international staff, and my role is to coordinate with other actors who are already on the ground to define where we are going, when we are going, and on what basis we base our interventions, and to guarantee the quality and the coherence of these responses. And finally, I think the main role as a field coordinator is really to ensure that program teams have everything that they need to assist the people in need, not to have duplication and not to have gaps where there is more need.
You are originally from Germany. How did you become part of the emergency response team in Congo?
So I started working in humanitarian aid in 2006 already with another German NGO. And then in 2013, I changed to ACF and I was first recruited to Pakistan. And afterwards, I got a family. I have 2 kids. And the interesting part of this emergency field coordinator is that it's based in the capital. So you can have your family with you, but you can still work just as a field co, and it's a very, very interesting, very exciting position that made us stay for the last 4 years. So we are here in Kinshasa since the year 2016.
And how is it to live in Kinshasa, and how is the current situation with the lockdown?
So normally the situation in Kinshasa for families or for expatriates is pretty comfortable, I would say. We have a lot of social life in Kinshasa. The security situation is pretty okay. But now that there are no national flights anymore, no international flights anymore, and the main business district in Kinshasa, the Gombe area, has been sealed off by the authorities, life has changed. For sure. So life in Gombe is no longer available. So there are no restaurants anymore. A lot of supermarkets where we would buy our stuff are closed now. The food is getting very expensive. So even local vegetables, the prices rise like from 1 week to the next. And the main issue right now is that it's so uncertain what will happen. So nobody knows how long will the confinement of the Gombe district continue. Will it be widened? Will the authorities have other measures in place in Kinshasa? So, and what will happen on a more regional level, and how will the situation of COVID, in fact, develop? Will there be the same explosion than we see in Europe or in the US? Will it be on another level? And what will be happening then with the local population?
In recent episodes of our podcast, we have spoken to experts from South Africa and Colombia, and all of them told us that over there, some people are more afraid of dying from hunger because of the economic impact of the lockdown than of COVID. Horeb, to whom we talked earlier today, has reported something similar from Eastern Congo. I imagine this can also be said from your perspective.
Oh, definitely. You see in Kinshasa, I guess, like 80 or 90% of the population of the 15 million people that are supposed to live here. Nobody knows how many really live here in Kinshasa, between 10 and 15 million. Most of these people live on a income on daily basis. So they are taxi drivers. They have like little stands on the streets where they buy or sell vegetables. There are very few people have a normal salary that we know in the northern world. They have income today, they have something to eat in the evening. They don't have income today, they won't have something to eat in the evening. So one of the major issues here is that if you confine people and you tell them not to leave the house anymore, they will not have a source of income anymore. So basically they will not have money to buy food, buy water, buy anything else. And in fact, there are a lot of people who tell us on a daily basis, if you put us under confinement, we will die of something else except corona. So as you might know, there are like thousands of people who die in DRC due to other illnesses like malaria, like cholera, like diarrhea, like usual infections or measles. And if people don't have access to healthcare anymore because they can't afford the medicines anymore, or the health centers are closed anyways, that will have a massive public health consequence on the entire country, which is much larger than the death that COVID would finally result in.
In order to combat this situation, the malnutrition, but also the impact on the healthcare system, what are the concrete measures that, for example, Action Against Hunger is taking?
So Action Against Hunger here in DRC, we have several programs. Like, as I said in the beginning, Congo is facing so many humanitarian issues, not only public health issues, but also huge security issues in the east with massive displacement, people who are losing livelihoods from one day to the next, very low access to water, which consequently has a big effect on the public health of the people. So Action Against Hunger in DRC tries throughout this crisis to keep on doing the work that we are already doing. So we have projects right now in place that address displacement and loss of livelihood. For example, in the east, in Ituri province, where massive security issues hinder humanitarian aid to be delivered. We have food aid for the Kasai region, and we have response for nutritional crisis all over the country. Right now, we are in 5 different regions. So one of our basic things is that we want to continue to deliver the humanitarian aid that we are already delivering, because their situation will not be better through COVID, but worse. So we have to make an extra effort to be able to deliver. And then on the other hand, we know that the healthcare system as it is right now in Congo is so weak that it would never be able to absorb the curve that might be coming through COVID. So just to give you an impression, I think they have 35 respiration machines in country. So if we really have the big curve, the healthcare system would break down massively, and there will not be time to isolate people, to treat people, and even to bury people. So what we are doing right now with money that has been given from the British government is that we are trying to put in place infection control and prevention measures in overall more than 60 health centers in Kinshasa, so that they can detect the cases early. They do not have the contamination between maybe suspected cases and healthcare providers, so that the healthcare providers in the health centers can continue to provide primary healthcare. So this is one of our biggest, that was one of our biggest issues when the COVID crisis happened. We were very concerned that, okay, so maybe we cannot address the mortality due to COVID, because Action Against Hunger is not a medical organization, but we have to make sure that primary healthcare will continue for the people. So we do not have an over-mortality that is linked to COVID, but is not directly caused by the virus.
I just read a very interesting article with someone of the International Red Cross in Geneva, and his fear is that the aid from the global north will shrink as the countries are so absorbed by their own problems. How is your assessment on this situation?
So we as Action Against Hunger, we didn't face problems in having our ongoing programs funded. The thing is that a lot of our efforts to adapt them to COVID or to add an additional component to address the changing environment is that donors tell us, reallocate the funding that you've had already to put in place whatever you want to do. So instead of giving more money to really respond to the crisis, the big risk that we all see is that already allocated money to humanitarian aid will be reallocated to the COVID crisis, thus leaving the huge humanitarian crisis that is in the East and all over the country without response, because everybody is jumping on the COVID train. And what happened, for example, in the Ebola response in the East is exactly that. A lot of money was given to Ebola, and behind that, there were huge issues in the community, in the overall humanitarian situation where Ebola was breaking out, but nobody wanted to work on that. Everybody only jumped on the Ebola train, leaving the vulnerabilities totally unseen. We need to continue working as humanitarians to deliver aid to the most vulnerable. Now, there are very few flights, and I think you know, Congo is as big as the middle Europe. So if you want to go from Kinshasa to the north, it's like 1,500 kilometers, and there are no autobahn here. There is like a huge infrastructural issue. Many destinations are you can only go there by flight, but there are no national flights anymore. So there's a huge issue in humanitarian access to remote areas. The United Nations Air Service has started to do some of the destinations again, but there's a huge part of the country that is just not reachable for humanitarians anymore. And another thing that is for sure a big challenge to deliver humanitarian aid is that a lot of NGOs depend on international procurement, medicine, therapeutic feeding, like everything that is all the COVID response with masks, with gloves, with personal protection equipment, etc. All that comes from international suppliers. It comes from China, it comes from Europe, it comes from America. So if borders are closed, these supplies cannot enter the country. So there will not be any response because we can't get enough supplies into the country. So this is something that where there are huge challenges, not only like for the COVID response, but also for the delivery of humanitarian assistance that is so needy for the vulnerable people in the remote areas.
When I was talking to Horeb today earlier, he mentioned two other things that I would like to touch base shortly. The first thing was that he said in Congo there's lots of misinformation and fake news going around COVID-19. Did you also see that? And how can a humanitarian organization like Action Against Hunger react on this false information?
I do see that a lot. So even amongst our staff members, there are people who come to us and say, "Is it true that it was all a complot? And is it true that there is a lot of the people want to test a new vaccine on us and stuff like that. So there is definitely a lot of misinformation, a lot of conspiracy theories, a lot of beliefs that, if you eat garlic, you will combat COVID. So yes, we definitely see a lot of misinformation. I have to say that the government, at least here in Kinshasa, they are doing a lot of health awareness raising. There are a lot of a lot of radio stations who transmit all kinds of messages from the government to educate the people to avoid these fake news. But for sure, it's a big issue. So what can we do as Action Against Hunger? I think our responsibility is, first of all, to educate our staff so that they are not a vector to spread these fake news, because they are like everybody else. They will not. They listen to people. They talk to people. So one of our first responsibilities is that we make sure that people who work for us have the right information and do not spread fake news. And then they can talk to other people to make things more clearer and to make things right. Afterwards, I think we have also a responsibility in health centers where we work, not only for the COVID response, but also in Ituri, in the Kasai area, and all over the country, to make an effort on health education. So to have posters printed and to talk about what are the real information, what are fake news about COVID, to make sure that people don't panic and people don't start to have xenophobic ressentiment against, for example, Chinese or Westerners, because they think that they are at the source of it and it's all because of them, etc. So I think we have a huge role to play in it.
How do you see the reaction of the people to aid workers? What I was reading in the Washington Post was that, especially in Eastern Congo, people do mistrust aid workers, and there have been health and aid workers being killed because of this mistrust. How is the security situation for the people working there, and how is the overall situation?
So I think it's really the Ebola response in the East was something that was really, really tricky for aid workers. I think there was a huge gap between what needed to be done and the community who should be the heart of every intervention, who should be informed about everything and should be participating in actions, especially in such epidemics. And I think a lot of these communities were felt left out. There was a huge business. People were running around with the big cars. And there were also a lot of rumors that, Ebola is something that, for example, the Westerners brought to Congo to kill the Congolese people. So everybody who was included in the response was automatically seen as somebody who is part of this conspiracy. And a lot of communities did not understand what are people doing. They were afraid of stigmatization. They were afraid of being put into Ebola treatment centers and then die. And they didn't understand where did the sickness come from, etc. So I think there was a lot of lessons learned coming from the Ebola response in the East. And I think this is why right now in Kinshasa there is a big effort of community engagement, commitment. How do we include the community in the best way to fight this virus? And right now, we don't see yet a mistrust in the response teams. There is stigmatization. People are not very comfortable right now in having to do with people coming from other countries. There have been some issues with people from the Western countries, so northern, like Caucasians, have been said, "Oh yeah, you with your coronavirus, go home." But there has not been any aggression like it was in the East, and up to now, I feel like sometimes for sure the population is not happy with the measures that the government takes. But up to now, I do not see a huge mistrust in the authorities up to now.
One last question from my side. How can each of us show international support and solidarity?
I truly believe that every one of us has a part to do. First of all, it's like have a responsible behavior. Every one of us has a responsibility to stop spreading this virus and to be responsible to our brothers, our sisters, our grandparents, and everybody else. So we do not spread the virus on purpose. I think everybody has his responsibility on that. But now I know that it is not easy to avoid stigmatization and to be solidary in a situation where for the first time maybe in our lives, I talk for my generation because we didn't see any wars. So for the first time in our lives, we are faced to a situation where we are not certain how it will continue and we have some kind of distress. But I think we should keep in mind that this is the situation of like the majority of the world every single day. So we are in a very comfortable situation compared to others. And I think the best thing that we can do as Northerns is to keep really in mind that we are still in a very comfortable situation. We can afford to be confined. We can afford healthcare. We can afford to buy 2 weeks reserves of pasta and rice and whatever, and to fight over toilet paper, while others have not enough money to be even able to provide for their families for one single day. And I think if we keep that in mind, we have done one of the major steps towards being solidary. And well, I know that, for example, if somebody loses his job, for sure his economic situation will be less stable. But it would be really, really important that we do not stop donating to associations, to organizations, to humanitarian aid, and that this kind of mindset also is reflected in our votes, in our engagement towards people in need, not only in the global south, but also right in front of our doors. And I think if everybody keeps in mind that we are all together in that, and that people in the global south will need much more help now than before, I think we've done a big step.
I think so too. Thank you so much for joining us today. Stay safe and healthy in Kinshasa, and I hope we will get an update from you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Human Rights Film Festival Berlin is an initiative by Aktion gegen den Hunger and shows stories of courageous individuals and communities on both sides of the lens, bears witness to human rights violations, and creates a forum to gain new perspectives on our world. More information on the festival, the podcast, and our daily online documentary series at hrffb.de. This podcast was produced and supported by 48 Hearts Productions.